Alright, this is the video review for the F-4 Phantom from Volks' A3 line. I'm kind of on a roll with all these Muv Luv figures, aren't I? Anyway, so this is another cool, big, chunky PVC action figure that is loaded with the A-lock joint system, or the A-lock joints, and that's where they get the whole A3 thing. Alright, so in the Muv Luv universe, the F-4 is in fact the first tactical surface fighter that was deployed against the beta aliens that are running around and eating everyone. And as a result, that means that all the other tactical surface fighters, like even the very Russian MiG-21, this is actually a Revoltech here, are all based off of this guy. You can kind of see how these two are very similar. You know, got the similar like jump unit thingies in the back. The whole upper body is similar, but this guy has much slimmer legs, whereas Mr. F-4 is got some very, very nice thunder thighs. Look at this. This guy is huge. I mean, the PVC on this guy, it's very sharply molded. The paint job is very nice, and he is thick. Very, very thick. Stands pretty well. Stands a lot better than his line mate, the F-14, who still is always kind of trying to fall back because of his tiny feet. Kind of see this is a first generation fighter. This is second generation. They got a little more curvy as time went on. Alright, and somebody asked, it's like, well, what's up with the, like, how is this an F-4? It's like, well, in the Muv Luv universe, because the aliens invaded around the late 60s, I think it was, a lot of the airplanes that we know are now giant robots because the timeline's different. So if in our world, this is an F-4, there's a little Maisto diecast figure, or diecast airplane. This is our F-4, this is their F-4. And you kind of see there's some similarities, like how the jump units are obviously styled after the rear of this airplane. Certain parts, like little fins here, are kind of meant to look like different parts of the airplane. This one's a little more divorced, not quite as in line with what the real airplane looks like, but kind of captured the spirit, because if they said a real F-4 is an affront to aerodynamics, then the Muv Luv version is even more so. So anyway, let's talk about joints, because this guy's kind of a mixed bag. Some parts are really good, some parts are kind of not really that great. He's got a waist joint. Moves alright. There's an A-lock joint in there that will click around a little bit. Fortunately, his head has a very limited motion, and it's kind of a shame because it's a cool head. Definitely looks like he's a good guy, but a good guy, but not a hero character. Also, these things on the back here, the jump units, they just plug in right here. You just kind of line up this white peg here and this extra part here. The pegs need to be thickened, or at least on mine they do, because it tends to fall off when you're doing stuff with him. Still, this guy's pretty solid. He feels like you could take a beating, definitely. You've got A-lock joints in the elbows. You can kind of move the arm just all the way up here and then all the way back here, hoping you don't actually bump into the jump unit. Let's take these off a little bit. I show off the articulation. And they do kind of click up and down like this. Now underneath here, you can lift up this flap on the shoulder. There's actually an extra joint in here, and you can rotate it like this and like this. And the purpose is that so he can still get his arm all the way up without having to rely on this part here where the shoulder pauldron is. So that's pretty cool. It's very nice. I like the extra joint. You have a double A-lock joint in the elbow. It kind of gets impeded by just the shape of the arm here, but you can actually rotate the lower arm to get it right. You can rotate this a little bit, and you can get it a slightly deeper bend like that. Okay. Now the hips are very nice. This guy can get his leg basically all the way up, just like that, and all the way back as well. And also they can cant outwards, go inwards. They click when you do this, when you want to splay them out. Just going to go to the feet first. Now the feet are pretty good, very chunky, nice details on the bottom. They click a little bit in and out. Now the worst thing about this guy is his knees are terrible, and I knew that going into this figure. I did my research on it. Essentially what goes on here is that you do have a double A-lock joint in here, but they can't really move very well. And also you have a problem with these parts kind of rubbing against each other. It's a real shame. You kind of have to make sure you can position this part correctly. And also out of the box, there's these little accordion details stuck into the joint, because the A3 figures, they actually do this on a number of the different toys in the line, where they want to give you that accurate look to the character, so they'll actually include these fill-in pieces just for aesthetics. I mean, this prevents the leg from moving at all, and it's actually really hard to get in and out. So unless you are like totally in love with the back of the F4's knees, I would just leave those out. So you can at least try to pose this guy. I mean, you can get a decent, you know, like a walking pose or a somewhat aggressive squat if you want. But yeah, pretty good overall. Definitely like a very characterful kind of toy. Alright, so let me put his jump units back on. Again, it's a shame these guys are really more boutique. You know, they're really just sold at Volks' shop and at various events. This guy is a limited edition, but there are different color variations on him that are more regular retail level releases. Like there's a Japanese Army color version, and there's also a UN color version. Alright, so with these jump units on the back here, you do have an A3 or an A-lock joint here that does click, and this whole thing can rotate, and it can also rotate this way. So as long as these are like really securely put in there, you know, this guy really stays together. For the accessories, this is a pretty standard loadout on this guy here. Yeah, stay like that for a bit. You get a pair of assault cannons, and these actually have hands on them. You get a pair of assault cannons that have mount pylons on them. So in fact, you get 4 whole different gun pieces. You get what I like, a pair of hands with knives. The knives are pointing down this time, so he can kind of, if you want, he can get his hand up like this and look like he's pretty badass. And the hands swap out with a simple peg-in system. So you can get him, he's got a gun, got a knife, CQC all the way. The mount pylons in the back, they don't actually move or do anything like they're on the Revoltech figures. If you want that kind of stuff, you get special weapon sets where the guns were already on there and the mount pylon was unfurled into whatever position you wanted. Like it was pointing like, yeah, he's just peg in. Yeah. So they were like pointed up like this with the gun on it, or they were like underneath the armpit with the gun on it. But here, all you can do is swap them out with the ones that have guns on them. Or if you have other A3 figures, you can also just swap those in there. These guys are fairly modular. And the only last kind of hand you get, open palm hand. So, pretty cool figure. I got this guy off of Mandarake. That's where I've been going for these in general. Pretty cool. It wasn't too expensive. He was about his MSRP. Very neat, very fun, chunky. Those knees are kind of terrible, but cool. This guy is cool. He's got a lot of presence. I like it, and there's definitely more Muv Luv reviews coming from me soon, so catch you guys around, and, you know, keep loving the Muv, because I do.